Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Practice on Air. This is episode number 29 of the Power of Practice. I'm your host, Lisa Ingalls, and today our guest is Jay Fizepp. We're going to be giving you a 100-day challenge in today's show, and we basically have 100 days left until the end of the year, which is more than enough time to get your butt back in gear and get those things done that you said you were going to get done on January 1st. So once again, I'm your host, Lisa Ingalls. I'm an author, a speaker, and a mindset mastery coach, and I'm the founder of Inner State Coaching, where I help people who feel like something's got to give in their life to find their internal compass and regain momentum so that they can awaken to their highest potential. You can learn more about me and everything that I'm doing over at www.innerstatecoaching.com, and while you're there, you can feel free to pick up my free report on my 5-step practice to creating radical change in your life. Now, in my 20 years of working as a coach, it's become very clear to me that creating radical change, whether it's in your health, your wealth, or your happiness, none of it is about doing certain things. Rather, it's about doing things in a certain way, which requires practice. And this 20-minute show, what I do in this 20-minute show is I interview guest experts from around the world in a wide range of fields, from business and health and well-being to relationships and spirituality, and I ask them all one question. That question is, what one practice can you share with us that can create a radical breakthrough in health and wealth or in happiness? And it's through these practices that us and you, the viewers, can actually turn your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. So if you are joining us live and you're hooking up with us live today, please do let us know you're here. Say hello to us in the comment box below this video. We'd love to hear from you and get you into this discussion as well. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're in the green room here, as in the green room with Jay, who I'll introduce in just a moment. But just to let you know that this is a rescheduled hangout. So we're sort of we came up with combining two ideas into one. So just stick with us here. I think it's going to be actually a really, really cool show for you today. Now, for those of you who don't know Jay, he is the founder of Personal Best Seminar, which is a leading seminar company that provides workshops promoting self-awareness and personal growth. He's also the creator of the Creator's Code, which is a global community of conscious creators who commit themselves to manifesting lives of meaning, significance, and contribution. And today we're also going to be talking about pillar number 8 of the Creator's Code. So Jay, welcome back, as always, to the Power of Practice. Wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me again. I always enjoy these shows. Always, always.
And we have a lot. I mean, we rescheduled this show from a couple weeks ago because there was a flight. You were in the midst of the air. You were in air with the delays in flights. So it's good that we were able to reschedule this. But in the midst, like I was saying in the intro, of rescheduling this, we had this whole other idea because we're basically at 100 days.
Actually, 100 ideas may be more accurate.
Yeah. Like you were telling me, Jay was telling me the other week that ideas don't just come to him in ones, they come in threes. There must be like something sacred about that. It's like the Holy Trinity, you know?
They're herding animals.
Yeah, exactly. So we had come up with one of those 103 ideas, whatever it is, was, oh my gosh, there's 100 days left the end of the year. And what Jay does is every time at this time of the year, it's 100 days, he sort of has a practice that he does, and he's also sharing that with his community. So we said, hey, why not bring that into the show? It'd be the perfect thing to bring on to the show. So we're going to weave that in with pillar number 8, which I'll let Jay also explain. We'll sort of just go from there. How's that sound, Jay?
That sounds fantastic. So can I contextually frame this 100-day thing for a brief moment?
Let me think about that. Yeah.
Okay. So just to put this in perspective of how these crazy ideas and my my wife teases me is my random access memory, because God knows what one thing will trigger for another. But I have a practice of an annual evaluation that I've been doing for literally 20 years. That the emphasis of it is not really about New Year's resolutions. It's about what are my most significant lessons from this year that I want to bring myself to integrate and apply in my next year. And I've been doing that for well over 2 decades. And then about, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, I ran into a gentleman named Gary Ryan Blair, and he actually has a program called the 100-Day Challenge. Now, and his whole thing is, it's any 100 days, you can create a miracle in 100 days. But I really adapted that by integrating my annual evaluation with this idea of there's 100 days left in the year. And so I don't use the sort of the challenge terminology so much as it's the countdown. And it's just between now and December 31st, who do I need to be? What do I need to do to actually create the most important experiences and results in my life? So I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years, and it occurred to me this year as I was preparing for it and what's interesting, of course, the 100 days started yesterday. This is day 99. If any of you want to jump on the boat, was also the fall solstice. So there's just a whole bunch of interesting elements at play in the world, and this gives a marvelous measure and countdown to what is absolutely the most important. Now, what's beautiful about that is, as I was going through what is some of the most important and significant, and our pillar 8, which is learn and teach, and the fundamental context of that is, for us to stay relevant in the world today, is that all of us, please hear this, all of us must leap in heart, mind, and soul, learning, educating ourselves, challenging ourselves, and sharing that knowledge as openly as we possibly can. It's one of the reasons I love you and your show, Lisa, is that this is just one of those pieces of free contribution. Great people, great ideas, great community, and people who are engaged in their lives. So it just sort of fit together that in my 100-Day Challenge, one of my top goals is to launch this Google Hangout TV program thing. I still don't even have the right terminology for it. I'm sure.
It's called a hangout on air show. Okay. You don't need to make it more complicated than it isn't.
And Lisa knows I actually have a bit of television production background, so I still have all of this TV stuff in my head that I need to separate out. Anyway, that is one of my most significant goals, is to actually launch this Google Hangout show and educate people about the power of masterminds all the way through to the end of the year. And I will be then sharing, a large-scale program that I've created, which is called Mastermind to Millions, that these two pieces work together. And I think we can make a monumental contribution to coaches, trainers, consultants, authors who are struggling to monetize what their gifts are. And that's really what a great mastermind does. So anyway, that's how these two things come together. I love both of them, and I am excited to be educated about my Hangout on-air show.
Yeah.
And how to do it, because I certainly respect and admire you being on the leading edge, which I think sometimes is also the bleeding edge of new technology and new communities and a new way to communicate in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other show in and of itself, right? But we go back to this, and we're going to get to the learn-teach principle of it. Talk to me more about what I love about what you said about the 100-day countdown, and I love that you call it a countdown, because I come from a background of health and fitness where these challenges and boot camps are the typical thing, and for me, understanding that a challenge actually is what I would call a frame of mind that isn't really conducive to, I don't know, I feel like when things are called challenges or workouts are called workout, people think that they're work and they associate it with a challenge, as opposed to like, this is something that's really cool. So anyways, I like that reframe of the countdown piece. And you said two things. Who do I need to be in order to do this, and what do I need to do? And that is so fascinating that you do that, because my free report on that's exactly where I come from. So I love how we always align like this. Like, who do I need to be? Because when you're coming from that, you're coming from your highest place of being versus trying to get to it.
Yes.
You're coming from it, which is a very subtle but important reframe that I would love to like just draw attention to that for our viewers and our listeners, that when we're coming from who we are, who we want to be, it's very different than trying to get to who we want to be. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. You had those two things. Who do I want to be and what do I want to do? So
and can I do a quick little reframe on that?
Yep.
Because there's a really specific set of words that I like, and it's who must I be and what must I do. And actually that's borrowed directly from Anthony Robbins in terms of just some NLP pieces around this. And it really does call us to a higher standard. And anyone who's been following me for the past 4 years has, and I'm just going to dive into a personal example to make some sense of this, Lisa, if that's cool?
Yep, go for it.
Anyone who has been with me for more than 4 years has known that I have struggled with my self-care routine. Now, eating healthy, working out, all those pieces. Now, I should make sense of this struggle for me, which is if we were to go, the previous decade up to those 4 years, is that I was, me and my wife, I would say we're pretty religious at 5 days a week, working out, all good, blah, 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 marathoners, pretty fit and healthy, and it wasn't something that we did. It was just a part of who we were. So child number 2 comes along, and I should qualify this. Child number 1 comes along, and we cope reasonably well. Still not the standard that we'd become accustomed to, but reasonably well. Child number 2 comes along, and it goes to hell in a handbasket. Like, by my standards, epically frigging awful. So from the standard of 5 or 6 days to if I got 2 in a week, it was like, hey, that's not bad. And while I'm even thinking, hey, that's not bad, another part of me is going, what a piece of shit that is. Like, I just can't, because that's my real language in my head, right? So I'm very clear about the beliefs around it, and here's what it really boils down to, is that I am a kick-ass dad. And when we chose to have children, it was vitally important to me to be a kick-ass dad. And I think I've delivered on that, quite frankly, epically well. But somehow in my head and heart, I set it up as an either or, not a both and. So for me to say no to my kids about, hey, do you want to go play ball, or hey, do you want to play Batman, or hey, whatever, those sorts of things, I don't like saying no to that. And somehow in my brain, belief system, and day-to-day practice is I put the priority at saying yes to them at a whim over top of my self-care. So I'm telling this story for this simple reason, which is who I must be is committed and consistent to me. That's who I must be. What I must do is find the time and space to do 2 things, actually, one of which is to put myself first, and the other of which is to have a standard of time and quality and investment in the relationships with my boys such that I can, quote, make it okay to say no at a whim, because I know that we've got, rock star one-on-one great experience that's coming up on Thursday night because it's me and Jackson's date night, or me and Wyatt's adventure night, or whatever the case may be. So that's a bit of a wordy description, but what I just want everybody to know is that within you for this countdown is that you're going to have to overcome resistance. You're going to have to face some of the beliefs. You're going to have to face some of the structures and architecture of your life to stay committed to, I'm working out every day, I'm meditating every day, and come hell or high water, that is going to happen. Long bit of content there, but that's the framing around this piece of it's a countdown. We're going to do what is necessary for us to stay on track daily, weekly, monthly. So December 31st, whatever that experience or result is knocked out of the park.
Right. So the first step is, 1, identifying what it is that you still want to complete by the end of the 100 days, whatever that yours is. You want to start a hangout on air show. Someone else might be lose weight or whatever it might be. The
Yes.
next step in it, then tell me then what the specific practice is. Obviously, okay, this is what I want to have accomplished by 100 days. So the specific practice of it, we've talked about who must I be and what must I do, but what's the practice within that, the daily practice?
Beautiful, because I put the cart in front of the horse, as I sometimes do. So the first step is this, that I ask people to do, is you come up with the 3 results or experiences that is necessary for you to nail before the end of the year. Now, once that's done, either in conversation with another human being, or you can actually journal it, and if you're going to journal it, I want you to write at least 3 pages. Like, this is a big deal. I want you to be clearer than you have ever been in your life about why those things are important. Now, for me, let's be perfectly clear, I gave you that whole contextual piece around my self-care element. But here's the other part about this in terms of parenting, is that part of my why is this, is that I am role modeling at this moment. I am role modeling poor self-care and questionable commitment. And if I'm going to be a really great dad, I need to role model great self-care and meticulous commitment. I haven't been doing that to my standards. So as a part of my why, I have to get perfectly clear about why this is even important. And by the way, the reason that you have this as a conversation or you write the whole thing out is that sometimes what people pick, their why as they get looking at it, is actually external. It's actually more of a burden. It's actually more of a gesture. And if that's true, you got to set it aside, because your why, as you're writing your why or as you're communicating about it, your energy should be going up and up and up and up and up and up and up to the point that you're actually vibrating. It's like, look, a world, let me get after this because I got something I got to go get my ass in gear about. If in the process it's like, you need something else. Okay, so you pick what it is, you write the why, you test it in terms of the energy. Now, do you ever mind map, Lisa?
Yeah, I have myself on mute. Yeah, I definitely mind map.
Okay, so mind mapping is one of my most, I think, powerful tools. If you've ever seen my handwriting, you'll know why I do most of my mind mapping in MindJet, which is I'm a big fan of. But it's difficult to also it's difficult to express the significance of actually using your own hand and how you draw it and all of those pieces. But then I go through a mind mapping process with each of the 3 goals. And it's just as simple as this. And in my humble opinion, a half hour to an hour is probably the appropriate time. Get yourself a monster sheet of like poster board, and you just mind map the entire piece out. Now, in my humble opinion, the process, and mind mapping, brainstorming, however you want to think about it, you're just tackling everything that's associated to it. If you just let yourself do that for a half hour to an hour, the strategy to accomplish this goal will reveal itself clearer than you could ever think your way through this. And you and I are both coaches, and I value coaching relationships as one of the most important things in the universe. But honest to God, if you just let yourself mind map for 30 minutes to an hour on each of these pieces, you will have greater clarity than you get in virtually any other manner. So we mind map. Then we pull the strategy out of the mind map, and honest to God, it will be unbelievably clear to you. If you haven't done this at home, you got to try it. And then literally the strategy simply gets mapped into your calendar as daily activities, weekly activities, and monthly measures. And in 100 short days, I've had people do more in 100 short days in terms of this focused process than they've done in 3 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally believe that. I love that. That's what I call inspired action, because it's coming from a source of understanding and knowledge and strength and power that's beyond you when you go into the mind mapping process, because anybody who understands mind mapping is sort of like, now I'm going to go into the mastermind. It's sort of like tapping into the master mind. It's just letting yourself go. It's part of that subconscious process. And then that fulfills that piece of what must I do. And I think, so here's the thing that I have to ask you around mapping that out into daily actions, weekly actions, and monthly measurables. Is that what you called it?
Yes.
Okay.
And just, I should qualify that, Lisa. That's what really works well for me. Different people might have different approaches to it, but that's what I recommend, and God, it works well for me.
So what do you recommend? Because it's the compound effect of those daily actions that might seem like so small and so little, that seem insignificant, that actually over 100 days are huge. Mm-hmm. So I know for me, so I'll tell you what I do when I don't know what to do, because even in a mind mapping process, a strategy might come out, but it might not look like 100 little things to do. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I do is I start my day in my journaling process and ask myself the question, well, I do ask myself that question, what must I do today in order to blah, 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 whatever my end goal is. And I also ask it from the standpoint of, what would the woman who has, and I'll just, what would the woman who has created a multi-million-dollar thriving coaching business do today if she, I place myself in that who I must be, and then ask that from that perspective of what would she do today. So that's one of the ways that I get my daily things. Do you have, how would you do, or what's your process and part of the practice for getting those little tiny daily things?
Well, first and foremost, I love that question of what would a person living this life, being this person, what would they do, how would they show up, all those things. Love that. And I guess it's a little different for me, Lisa, because I've been at this personal transformation thing for 25 years. I have experimented with every weirdo modality under the sun that I won't. Yeah, I'll just leave that alone for now. But in my ongoing experimentation and throwing myself into that piece, literally like 15 years ago, I came up with what I'm going to call the practices that feed my soul, and it is an unbelievably, I'm searching for the words for it. It is with cellular and spiritual certainty I know what to do. I don't have that question of what to do. The son of a gun for me has been being consistent with it, taking my very free and joyful, me and my dear wife who have unbelievably similar values and approaches and beliefs and all of those sorts of things. She knows what I'll say before I say it. I know what she'll say before I say it. It's just, we joke, actually a little sidebar for humor. How some people say it's like, I have like telepathy with my partner and all those sorts of things, is that we tease each other is that we're telepathetic, which is we only have one brain, we just take turns using it.
I like that.
Anyway, the point being is that we got into this really powerful and significant, beautiful groove, and then we added these two amazing beings, which are our sons, that we either didn't have the tools, we weren't clear and grounded enough about how to balance those two, that honest to goodness just threw us for a loop. And we're really in this process in terms of their ages now and how they're beginning to interact with one another, that I feel more confident and excited that I can get back to what I know works for me, and it is time to get back to what I know what works for me. So I guess that's a long answer to say I have never not known, but I have had trouble with consistency, particularly since my second son arrived.
That's interesting, because we're sort of on opposites on that. Like I have although like I don't always know, so I do that little thing of knowing, but I've always felt that it was, and I don't know that this is true, and if it's like the nature-nurture thing, like of what makes a person tick and be who they are and what they are. And I think this is actually a great learning example for our viewers of the different sticking points that people come to when they're doing these things like 100-day countdown. My thing might be not knowing what to do daily Jay's might be how to stay consistent in the action. For me, I've grown up as an athlete, and I was so dedicated and committed to my practice every day. I was talking to my daughter about this, who's 12, the other day, about why, like, she's wanting to, Mom, I don't know if I want to be on this soccer team. And it's just one of those things. I'm like, okay, let me just tell you this. There's something that you're going to learn from being committed to doing something over a course of time. And for me, it was running, and then it was triathlon, which meant I was training for years and years, up to 15 to 18 hours a week of training, plus working and blah, blah, and all that. And I was so committed, it was just like, yeah, that's just what I do. Like, there's no problem. I make time for it. I figure it out. So that's always been an interesting thing for me to negotiate with my clients is, how do I tell them how I've done? I'm like, I don't know, because that's always been how I've been, is to be consistent and dedicated. And like my fiance says, you're like a drill sergeant. You just wake up at 5:30 every morning to meditate. How do you do that? It's dark. I'm like, I don't know. I just do. It's like can do it. I don't know. So I think that's an interesting learning point, to see that people have their different sticking points on something like this.
Always, and I put my finger up a moment or two, because I think I said something that isn't true, which was, I've always known, and that isn't accurate. So 25 years ago, I went on this journey of doing my darndest to wake up and testing a bunch of modalities, and I actually created a process that really worked for me, heart, mind, and soul, and that process is it. So it's not like I knew this forever, but I reinvented a whole bunch of things that it was like, so it isn't like I always knew. I actually had to throw myself in and create a way for me. But once that was created, then now the question is, as my life changes, as new dynamics come in, as business changes, how do I stay on track? And that's really the big piece of the universe for me now, and why I'm so excited about this 100-day challenge, and I'm open, grateful, and excited to learn different ways to integrate all of those pieces to get back to that consistency.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's take that 100-day challenge and look at one of the things that you said that was one of your goals. And I know this because you're my featured guest for the year. We've had arranged that where you're my only guest that is on consistently every month, and we have a specific plan. We have a what's that? Yeah, you're already doing it. You already have your show.
and just to be clear about this, I should just qualify my consistency thing, because I want to be very clear about this, is I'm epically consistent at almost everything. The thing I let go of when parenting was self-care. So that it's that very powerful but significant slice. So yes, anyway, so I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, got it. And so we have you on, and so it actually became, you were sort of scoping out, like, is this Hangouts thing, like, is it really something I should get into or not get into? And so now you're at the end of the 100 days, and or you're at the 100-day thing, going, yeah, okay, this is, what do I need to do in order to have a show and become a host and build a new program, or build not a new program, but build a piece of what you've already been doing for years and years and years, and just make it more available to more people out there.
Exactly.
Right. So. Yahoo! So this comes into Pillar 8, which, would you talk just a little bit about Pillar 8, which is the
Learn and Teach.
Learn and Teach.
And I'm going to give the very high level because we're blending stuff here, but really here's the key piece to this, is that change is growing at an exponential pace. I read somewhere, and I'm going to make up the exact details, but you'll get the point of it, is that I believe it's by 2017, the amount of information on planet Earth will double every 12 hours. Now, I can't even comprehend what that means. Does that mean like I go to bed at night and I wake up twice as stupid because there's, so much more I don't know? Like, it's a little bit incomprehensible to me. But what I want us just to recognize is that change is happening so quickly that our little linear brains cannot compute. We haven't really been wired to live in an exponentially changing world. And if you're sitting at home going, I'm not sure that's true, there's a very simple truism, which is this: human beings always overestimate what they think they can do in a year and always underestimate what they could accomplish in 5. And all that really means is even the simple, basic, linear pieces of 60 freaking months in your life, human beings can't get right.
Yeah,
and now
that's
we're going to
crazy.
say there's 60 months and we're going to add exponential change. We're going to be lost in space. So anyway, I could go on a little rant about this, but I'll reel myself back. So this idea of learn and teach, which I often, when I talk about this pillar, people sort of dismiss it, like, oh yeah, it's all good. But I think that the vast majority of human beings do not have any comprehension how vitally important and significant it is for them, starting right now, if you are not already, to throw yourself into being a student, heart, mind, and soul. And in my humble opinion, you need to be a student of health and wellness. You need to be a student of technology. You need to be a student of relationships at work. You need to be a student of financial freedom. You need to be a student, and literally throw yourself in. So that's part one of it. And you're not doing that, so that you are going to transcend because you're so smart. You're doing that just to try to keep yourself half-assed relevant in the next decade. Because the truth of the matter is that the vast majority of humanity is going to be fundamentally irrelevant because they won't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Sorry, my Saskatchewan's coming out. I'm ranting anyway. So that's.
Oh my God, you crack me up.
So that's the one side of it. Now the other side of it is this: is that if we are in this spot of this hockey stick of exponential change, is that there's another element incumbent upon each of us. And again, one of the reasons I respect and admire you, one of the reasons why I'm choosing to do this Google Hangout show is this: is that if you have knowledge, if you have wisdom, I think it's incumbent upon us to find means, methods, mediums to share that with anyone and everyone who is willing to play, listen, and engage. Because the truth of the matter is that we're either going to work together at serving, supporting, and educating one another. So I'm jumping into being educated by you for my Google Hangout on Air show. You're jumping into being educated with me for the Mastermind to Millions, something I've done for 25 years. And it is that type of collaboration, and it is that type of, I'm going to call it accelerated assimilation, that is going to be necessary for every single one of us. And until we can build a network of people around us that we can pick up the phone and say, hey, Lisa, I'm doing this. Teach me the 4 key elements about starting a Hangout on Air from YouTube, please. And when we have that, we've got a shot. And otherwise, we're going to be, and I share an example, and this is on one hand funny and on the other hand completely and utterly heartbreaking. Or we're going to be like my mother-in-law, who Corey went to visit her at the care place, who picks up the phone and looks at the phone and looks at Corey and say, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this anymore. Can you show me again?
Yeah.
And that'll be us, not at 75. That'll be us at 65 going, what the hell happened to the world?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, does that make my point clear enough?
Yeah, it does. And I think that there's, within the teacher and the student, I think what I hear you saying, at least implicitly, is the importance of the balance of the two, because being a consummate student isn't great, and being the know-it-all teacher all the time, you're only getting half of the point. Being the student all the time, you completely miss the point of the depth of learning that you actually get by teaching. So that your learning goes to the next level. I mean, that's just one aspect of it. By being a teacher going to the student, or by always being the teacher, you lose perspective of the beginner's mind and what it means to be in a place of receptivity versus continually giving what you think you have and know all the time. I mean, there's so many levels to it, but there's that point. You didn't say it explicitly, but you said it implicitly, that importance of the balance of the two.
And you totally nailed it, and that is why these two things are put together. Because, and the other part of it is we get stuck. You know, we get stuck in a role. It's like, oh, I know this, let me tell the world. Or it's like, oh, I don't know this, I just need to learn one more thing before I can share it with the world. And neither of those is really sustainable as we head forward in our world.
Yeah, absolutely. I could keep going and going on that, but I want to say, because this is a 100-day countdown, that, and you said it already, and I sort of said it, but my thing is the masterminds, and I've always known, so this is just for the viewers and everybody listening, is that one of the things that I would love to do, that my goals by the end of 2014 here is to establish my own mastermind group. I've been in masterminds before, many of them, and I know that some of them work and some of them don't work, and there's all these things about them. So I'd love, and I'm super excited to be working with you on how you've strategized putting masterminds together specifically for people like me, like coaches and people who are doing big work in the world, to pull together a solid mastermind group. And I'm super excited. I'm sort of now going all over the place to tie that into your hangouts and teach you how to do, like, so now we're going into, on both sides of it, the teacher student on both sides, like we're both teaching each other and both being the student of each other's deep work. So I'm excited, and then pulling this into a 100-day countdown type of thing.
Well, and just to be clear about it, is that my show, in terms of my monthly measures, so my show launches October 16th. So really, it's in terms of priorities, it's almost, it's like 21 days until the first show happens. So I have an inordinate number of tasks to break down to get my treatment done, to get my intro done, to get a couple of my first guests lined up. Like, I am unbelievably excited. Yeah. Well, you can bet I'll be there at your first hangout. I won't heckle you. I'll just be there doing comments and prodding people along, and yeah, it's going to be really, really great. And teaching you how to be a good hangout host and how to do all of those things. You're going to be. This is old hat for you, Jay. I mean, well, you've already been from the TV industry. I hosted a television show, but this is absolutely different. And can you do me a favor? So I would love to know from you, could you give me like the top 3 things that I will learn in the what's the name of your program?
So in Hangout Strategies for Visionary Leaders. So in that program, what you're going to learn, I mean, there's so many things, but I think the biggest thing, I'll give you 4.
Okay.
Because what people don't realize is they think, oh, just Hangouts and just my show, but there's so many, and I know you and the work that you're doing in the world, Jay, is just, we're parallel, we're very similar. It's about much bigger than us. It's about helping humans consciously move into their awakening and be on this journey. So what you're going to find with the Hangouts, I think, is that it's so far beyond the show. It's incredible. When I first did a show, I was like, oh, it's just going to be about the show and having guests on and promoting my thing. And then I realized, oh my God, this is about sharing my message in a huge way and doing it exponentially faster than I could ever have done before. But that being said, there's these other pieces to it that are just important. One is the cultivation of your presence. I did a whole series a couple weeks ago on this idea of return on engagement. And you're going to find, I think, that with the Hangouts, a really key thing about it is the engagement factor and how you engage and who you engage with and the follow-up on your engagement. So although, yes, it does take time to have these real conversations and real engagement, the payoff is worth it, not just from a monetary standpoint, but just from the standpoint of I know that I'm doing my work in the world. And so there's like a really cool thing about that.
So can I just add to that I think is a fascinating experience?
Yes, and your video somehow went off. I don't know why.
I'll have it back in just 1 second.
Okay.
I had to move my computer, and I didn't want bandwidth to go crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm getting ready for the show today, and I was just finishing working out and getting to the computer, and this might sound weird, but hear it out. Friend is not a word that I throw around lightly. And in my head, as I'm coming to the show, it's like, oh, I can't wait to see my friend Lisa. Now, what's interesting about this is, other than walking past each other in the hall at JVIC, we've never actually met in person.
No. Well, I didn't even meet you in JVIC. For those people who don't know, that was a live event that both Jay and I were at. It was a big networking event. And yeah. I saw you, but I never talked to you there.
Exactly, same. It was like we walked past each other in the hallway. And the power of hangouts and the flattening of the earth in my brain, it's like we spent a ton of time together, but literally never once face to face. So this idea of this engagement and this capacity is really quite astounding. Like, really quite astounding.
Yeah, and we have face to face, not three-dimensionally face to face.
Good point. Yes.
And that's I think a game changer. And people say, well, why not Skype? Because Skype does the same thing, but what Skype doesn't do that you can do with Hangouts is the YouTube. It records it immediately, puts it into YouTube, and now you can be in multiple places like instantaneously. With Skype, it's private. You can't bring in the public. You can't engage and have discussion in the public. So in that way, it's very, very groundbreaking. It's a game changer for people whose work depends on connecting and communicating, and that's what you're so great at too, Jay, is just that level of connection that you give. And it really comes across. So I think you'll find that as one of the other one piece of Hangouts. Another piece is the connection. So that would be what I would call cultivate. Like you're cultivating your present, and then connecting is, it's not just about your show, and it's not just about you, or it's not just about me and my show. It's about the community that gets created. So instead of me having a following of people, which assumes that I'm up here and these people are following me and my tribe and blah, blah. It's like, no, it's a community, because you know what? Your contribution to this discussion is just as important as what I have to say about this too. That's how we get perspective. That's how we evolve. That's how we grow. And I think that's a huge piece that you'll get when you start to use your Hangouts, is this sense of community through the connections that you make, not just through your show, but perhaps through watching other people's Hangouts, because one of the things I encourage people to do is start engaging with other people in the Hangouts that they do, because you get to meet other people. You get to engage with them in the chat. You get to engage with them inside of the Hangouts. It's another groundbreaking type of thing that just can't happen anywhere else. And then we've talked. You'll of course learn about the Hangouts, and then the last piece is what I call the collect piece, which some people would call monetize. But honestly, where most people's mind wants to go immediately to monetize, my take on it is, yes, you can and you will monetize if you're doing these other three things, but that's just a natural byproduct. Like, that's just going to happen. And I call it collect because sometimes it's not just about the money. Sometimes we're looking for more people to sign up for our newsletter, and we're looking for leads, or we're looking for people to sign up for another Hangout series that we're doing. So your call to action is your collection, right? Whether that's in the end ends up being monetization or something else. Join me over here for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So those pieces are very integral into hosting your own show and having your own show, and they're pieces that I see a lot of people just coming into Hangouts and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to be used as a webinar. It's like, well, you're missing the point, actually, and the power of what's in this whole thing for you. Like, if you're really here to do big work in the world and to be in service to, like me, to be in service to the awakening of human and social potential, then you got to see this thing from a higher level strategically, how we can use technology to advance us in this way, because the tool in and of itself is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
How we use the tool that makes it so powerful for us. And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you know, there's no privacy anymore and blah, 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 blah about digital, you know, being in the digital space. My take on it is it's not the digital space and it's not the technology, it's how you're using it. If you're choosing to go in and put all of your, reveal all these parts of your life that are maybe you don't want everybody seeing, why are you doing that? Anyways, like, be impeccable, as my friend Andy Lyons would say, be impeccable always in your words, whether you're on or offline. Then you don't have a problem, you know? So
can I share my screen? I want to show you something just in this, what you were talking about. It's not the tool, and people get so confused about that time and again.
Yes.
I love this.
Oh, nice. Wait, I'm going to put it, I'm going to make sure yours. It doesn't matter how many resources you have. If you don't know how to use them, they'll never be enough. Oh, my God.
Isn't that great?
That's so true. Yes. I love it. Absolutely. That's really good.
So, and it gets back to, I mean, one of the conversations when you and I were coaching, we were talking about your mastermind group, and I went through the business model, and you had seen the business models that work model before, but it's the same thing. It's like, oh, I see 6 pieces, and I think I understand each of the 6 pieces. But we don't really begin to understand the comprehension until we get the interrelationship and the exponential growth that happens when those pieces actually are interconnected, both heart, mind, soul, and in our business model. And to me, I really see this as the same thing. I'm not stepping into using a broadcast tool. I'm stepping into, frankly, learning a new medium to communicate and contribute.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
And until we can put it in that proper context, it's just a show, it's just a webinar, it's just a little video, it's just a chit chat I have with my friend Lisa. But the honest to goodness truth is, it's far, far, far more significant than that.
Absolutely. And when it's just that tool to be a webinar, a teleseminar, or whatever, you're missing the point of connecting and having real conversations and real connection with people. And for me, it goes back to, I believe that a huge amount of the struggle and strife and pain and suffering that we're experiencing in our world, on our planet today, is because people are disconnected. People do not feel connected. And when our tools and our resources for our business have been emails and webinars and telesummits, and that's all we know, and we think, oh, those are the tools we need to use. But those tools are disconnecting us from our ideal audience. They're disconnecting us from our friends more than connecting us. Well, then what do we do? And to me, this is where Hangouts has been a game changer, is because it's a resource that has allowed me to connect and contribute in a very meaningful way that feels like, wow, I actually made a difference with that show. And I know that I made a difference because people actually engaged, and I'm seeing the ripples on Google Plus of the comments that are going on and on and on. And it's like, wow, that's why I'm here. That's so cool. Mm-hmm. And when you strategically understand how to put that into your business, you understand, wow, I can get rid of those other tools, or maybe don't need to use those other tools as much. I can use this particular tool and use it in place of these, and in concert, in combination with these other ones, and whoa, my business now, I'm thriving because I can do what I'm meant to do in the world in a really significant way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, and I guess this is, I want to do a little shift that is related to our topic, but so on Friday I'm starting one of our programs called The Gift. It's a 3-day transformational process that I often bill it as the owner's manual that all human beings should have received but didn't.
I like that.
And the biggest, well, honestly, there's so many powerful pieces about The Gift. But one of the overriding themes that if people actually get it, the overriding theme is to stop thinking about the content of our lives and to start thinking about the context of our lives. Mm-hmm. And the metaphor I'd like people to just think about is this, is that most of us have, I don't even have a cup with me, I just cleaned my office. Most think of it as your life exists in a cup. So this could be a cup of water, cup of coffee, cup of whatever it is. And inside that cup is some liquid, there's some sediment, there might be an ice cube, there might be a couple of rocks, there might be some mud and dirt, all the rest of it. And that process will sort of settle quite naturally into its different components. And if we were to look at our life, it's like, yeah, there's some rocks, there's some dirt, there's some water, it's all fine. Now, what most people do to try to create change is they get a really big spoon. And they take that spoon and they get in and they stir up the content. And they stir and they stir and they stir, and then they look at it, it's like, hey, it's totally different. Look, it's a little bit, that ice cube's moving, the rocks aren't all at the bottom, some of them are moving around. It's like, man, I'm changing, yahoo! Except then they stop stirring, and in not too long a time, it all separates and it all settles and it all goes back to the same shit, different day.
Right.
So, most of us do what? I need a different spoon. I use that silver spoon. I was totally off track with that. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be one of those wooden spoons because those are more natural and it's totally going to work. And if I stir it with the wooden spoon with a crystal on my head, that's totally going to make a difference.
Right.
We stir our little heart out, and good God, it looks different for a while. So that's what most people do with change, is they focus on shifting the content. And I think this is really pertinent to what we're talking about in terms of this idea of hangouts, mastermind, all those sorts of pieces, is that if we just stopped stirring the freaking content long enough to say, hey, my life would change if I got a bigger cup. My life would change if, in fact, I threw the cup away utterly and completely, and I got myself one of those great big monumental rain barrels. And we started looking at this idea of what is the contextual frame, because the context determines the size, the quantity, and the quality of the content. And that's one of the biggest things that if we could begin to do this, and it's one of the things I'm most excited about, in terms of serving and supporting you to develop your mastermind, is that one of the greatest benefits of the right people in a mastermind group is that through osmosis, through conversation, through things that we structure called hot seats and a couple of exercise and activities for people to share their resources, their network, and their experience, this context piece happens quite naturally and magically when the right people are in the room, guided by the right conversations. Right. We're not really interested in stirring up content one more time. It's a waste of your time, effort, energy, and resources. Put the damn spoon away. But if you're interested in building a bigger barrel or another version thereof, that's a conversation I'll have till my last breath on planet Earth.
Yeah, I love that. I could keep going, and I know we're getting to the end here, but I'm just going to say on that piece, it's so, I don't know, like I almost like I can't put words around like how how it's all coming together, because it's so true that the context piece is, if you don't have that, I just it's not I've been there. Anyways, you're talking about the stirring the spoon and the crystals on the head, and then the chanting the perfect chant. Oh yeah, I've done that enough times in my life. Oh, I did the wrong chant. I was supposed to be doing that other chant. That's why it was wrong. Still put the crystal on the head, still take the wooden spoon because it's sustainable. But it's the other chant that I was supposed to be doing. So, yeah, we're coming to the end of the show, and it's, of course, once again, we had, I think we crammed about at least 2 hours of content into an hour here. But to wrap it all up for everybody who's listening live and in replay, we started out with this concept of a 100-day countdown, which is it's 100 days left till the end, well, 99 days left till the end of the year. How are you going to choose to be in those 100 days? What are you going to choose to do in those 100 days? And Jay outlined a really cool process, or I should say practice, in the first half of this. So if you missed the first half, go back and watch the first half somewhere around minute 20 or so. He sort of outlined what you can do as a daily practice for the next 100 days, and that makes me think that I might just start a post and do a couple of hangouts to see if anybody wants to do the 100-day countdown here in Google.
Can I jump in? So
yeah.
I would love that, and I will come chit-chat and visit if you do it. Now, here's the declaration I made to the people who came to our event last night, is I'm going to post every single day what my daily, what I declared as my daily actions were going to be, which is meditate, work out, and reach out to a handful of joint venture partners. I'm also posting my weight.
I'm writing down meditate, work out, your weight. Wait, what was the other one?
Joint venture calls.
Oh yeah, JV calls.
Yes, to set up the launch of the mastermind to millions in January. And so one of the stated goals is December 31st, I weigh 185, which is lose 20 pounds of fat, put on 5 pounds of muscle. And when I started, I was 199 and a half. So I'm posting on a daily basis my weight, which on one hand, quite frankly, horrifies me. And on the other hand, it's like, you know what, it's a 100-day process, we'll go through this. So my invitation, by the way, to everyone who participated was to continue to post about what their daily actions were. And you can do that on your page, you could do that on the 100-day countdown if you do that. Hell, you can do it on my page underneath my daily post.
Is that a Facebook thing, or can we also do one on Google Plus? Because I want to start it on Google Plus.
Thing, but I would love to do it on Google Plus too. I'm happy to post it either place.
Okay, here's what we could do as part of this. We can post it on Google Plus, but I'm happy to make a 100-day countdown community in Google Plus too, and see if we can get people into the community in Google Plus. I'd be happy to moderate that.
I love that, because it also then creates that reasoning and process to feed people over this way, and I think we can use it as a part of supporting your program in terms of the Google Hangouts and letting people know about the Mastermind show when it launches on October 16th.
There you go, you guys. And we want to hear what your countdown challenge is too, so that we can support you in what it is that you want to create by the end of this year, 2014. So what I'm going to do, for those of you watching, I'm going to put a post up today about the 100-day countdown and a community for you to join. And what we want you to put in that community is what, Jay?
Well, can you keep talking for 1 minute? Because I'm just trying to see if I can find the video of the actual training thing that we did, so that people could actually go through that entire process on their own. If you can just give me, it hadn't occurred to me until you came up with this brilliant idea, but give me 1 nanosecond, okay?
See, this is what happens, you guys. The mastermind, just when Jay and I get together, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a post. I'm going to start a community, the 100-day countdown community. We'll give you some guidelines of what we want you to post within the community, of what your specific action items are, your daily action items, and we want to support you in that. So in the same way that Jay and I are supporting each other in what we want to do. For our next 100 days, we want to support you, and as a community, we can support each other in the next 100 days so that we're moving into 2015 with momentum, not from a stagnant place, but from a momentous type of place. And then as Jay is still pulling that up, I'm going to, as I was wrapping up, just remind you that the other piece of what we talked about today was pillar number 8 of the Creator's Code, which is teaching and learning, how important it is to be on both sides of the teaching and learning, be in both of those places in your life. And the examples that we were giving within the context of the 100-day countdown and all of this is that I'm going to be teaching Jay how to start his Hangout on Air, his show, and he's going to be going through my program with that, and then he's going to be teaching me how to start my mastermind program. So again, we'd love to hear what you guys are planning for and support you, all in the context of everything that we've talked about today. No, that was a lot. Jay, did you get up what you wanted to get up?
I did. So there are actually 2 links that I want to just share with people. And number one, I want to make an invitation and encourage people, if you're interested in learning this technology and this medium for communicating, I just want to say I've gotten some of the inside scoop and some of the accelerated process from Lisa in terms of this show. If you are remotely considering it, you really should check out her show. And actually the link to check out her show, check out her program, is actually in my
lower third.
Bar there. Yes,
called the lower third. As a host, you're going to have to learn that it's called your lower third.
My lower third.
Not your doohickey or your thingamajiggeroo. It's your lower third.
My thingamajiggy who, that's good. Anyway, so it's there. So if you're interested in her program, just click that link. That would be fantastic. And then over in the chat window, what I did was I just posted the link to the actual workshop we did last night. Now, the recording is approximately 3.5 hours. You could probably go through it if you accelerate in terms of all of the steps and the stages. You could probably go through it in, I'm going to guess, with the time that people had for actually doing their mastermind, their mind maps and all of those pieces. There's probably, you could do it in about 2 hours. It would give you the high-end level. And I put that link in our chat window there, Lisa.
Perfect. So I'll put those links into the description as soon as we finish the broadcast today, so you guys will have those links in the event details as well as in the comments. So, wow, okay, well, we're wrapping up now. We're right at that hour point. And Jay, what are your final parting words?
Twofold. Number one, the 100-day countdown really works for a conscious reset and a real focused way to create what's most important in our lives. So that's point number one. Point number 2 is, in the 100 days, I ask you to really dedicate yourself to learning and teaching. So every single one of you has something to share with the world. I don't think you'd be part and parcel of listening to this if you didn't have something you wanted to share with the world. And Yahoo, we need more people like you leading the way, lighting the way, and inviting the rest of the world to engage. And if you want a medium to step up your game, to reach a broader audience, to, frankly, and here's a little side piece, instead of being behind the curve, get ahead of the curve, because, I have this sneaking suspicion the internet and Google may be here to stay. For the first 10 years, I thought it might be a fad, but, it's kind of like sushi. I think it's here.
It's here.
Anyway, a nice smart ass. But in all seriousness, is that if you wanted to actually reach a broader audience and you wanted to teach at a level or communicate at a level or share at a level that is global, you got to consider engaging in Lisa's program. It'll knock your socks off. I can tell you from the inside glance, and I'm going to be going through the process. I will be sharing about it in terms of my 100-day updates, and join us. We're going to have a hoot.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
You're welcome.
We'll be seeing a lot more of Jay, not just on the Power of Practice, but he's going to be having his own show soon. So we won't have to skip a beat with him. And I want to thank you all for showing up today, whether you're watching live or in replay. Once again, thanking Jay for being such an amazing guest. Love having you here, Jay, always. And it is my belief that each one of us is capable of radical transformation and achieving quantum breakthroughs in our health and our wealth and our happiness. It's just that sometimes we don't have the tools and resources in order to do that, and that's what this show is all about. And so hopefully you'll join us in that 100-day challenge. Hopefully you'll join me in the program that I will put into the into our comments there. And as a final reminder, you can always see what I'm doing, see what's up with me at www.interstatecoaching.com. See you guys next time. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate being here. Thanks.